In this session, we shall take a look at two types of tokens. One is identifiers and the next is keywords or reserved words. Let us first define what is an identifier. An identifier is a name given by a user to programming objects or elements like names of variables, constants, functions, arrays, and so on. Identifiers are case sensitive. Suppose I define a constant variable like this. I say const, okay. I should not use uppercase because it doesn't make sense in C++. So I would say const pi here is assigned 3.142. So this is saying that pi is a constant memory location whose value is 3.142, which cannot be changed. This pi is a name given by me. You could give pi as pai also, nothing stops you. So this name given by the user is referred to as an identifier. So names of variables, constants, functions, arrays are known as identifiers. They are case sensitive. The meaning of that is capital Pi is completely different from small case pi. This fellow again is different from this fellow. This fellow is again completely different from, let's say, this fellow. So all these three are really different. So the moral of the story is identifiers are name given to user objects or programming objects like variables, constants, functions, and arrays. Let's take a look at the names for or the rules for naming identifiers. The first thing you need to understand is the names you give to variables, constants are case sensitive. The names must begin with a letter or an underscore. That means you cannot have a variable name like this. You cannot have a variable name 9a because it is beginning with a number. It can begin with underscore a, that is fine, but do not start a name with underscore because underscore is used by library functions and it can confuse your variable names with the library functions. So name can consist of only alphabets, digits, and underscores, but it must begin with an alphabet or a letter. So case sensitive. Name and name are different variables because this is capital N, this is small n. Name cannot contain spaces or special characters. You cannot have a variable name A space B. Okay, this space is wrong. It can be AB, but A space B is not allowed. You cannot use special characters like what? You cannot use special characters like question mark, exclamation, hash, percentage, or any other thing. The names of objects or variables must only contain alphabets, letters, and underscore. Keep it that simple. Again, you cannot use keywords or reserved words like int, float as a name of variables. I cannot say the name of a variable as like this. I cannot say int float is equal to 10 because this is wrong. Why it is wrong? Float is a keyword or a reserved word. This is a word which has a very specific meaning to the C++ compiler. It is to be used only in the way the language tells you. Int is a reserved word, float is a reserved word. In place of float, you can use x because x is not used by the compiler with any special meaning. Whereas float is a reserved word or a keyword that cannot be used as a identifier. Let's take a look at example of valid identifiers. This is student is okay. Don't include the comma. Student, I don't know why student twice I have typed, but that must be a typing mistake. Student marks underscore 1, that's okay, comma. Underscore 2 is okay. These are all examples of valid student numbers. This could be student 1. All right. So student 1 marks underscore 1 underscore 2. These are all examples of valid names to variables or any identifiers. This is invalid identifier. Why? It is starting with a number. This is a keyword or reserved word which has a special meaning to the compiler. Data hyphen 99. Hyphen is not a part of the naming convention. You can begin with alphabets, underscore, or digits. You cannot use a hyphen. So I hope you understood what is an identifier. Just to repeat, identifier, we'll be using them so many times, are the name given to objects like object means variables and all. constants. These are all called object. Object means something. Just think of the word object means something. Something which is imaginary here. So this is pi is an object. This is a 3.142 is a number. This is a number type of object. It is a constant object. Now, let us try to understand what are keywords or reserved words. There are certain words which have been designated by the developers or creators of C++ that have very special meaning to a compiler. An example of could be int a. When I say int a, it means that a is of the integer data type. So here int has a very specific meaning to indicate to a compiler. If you say int space float, it confuses the compiler because you cannot name something which has a special meaning as the name of a variable and so on. So a programmer may not use reserved or keywords as identifiers. They cannot be redefined. That means you cannot, they have int means a data type of integer. You cannot change the meaning on your own. There are a number of reserved words. You don't have to worry or know them. You go and go through your notes and just take a look at them. The moral of the story is you will understand the use of all of these reserved words as you continue to learn C++. It is not required for you to know all the reserved words or what is their even their meaning purpose at the beginning. These are just examples in the table which show you the list of reserved words. For example, char, catch, case, break, do, delete, double, float. These are all examples of reserved words. For, go to, type def, union, struct. These are all examples of reserved words or keywords which have special meaning, which are used by a compiler for very specific purpose.